Welcome back to another edition of Nain Shorts. Thank you for joining me on this lovely day where we talk about training and how best to get better results with less effort. I mean, we're all trying to just do better, right? That's why we keep on training over and over again. And as much as I appreciate the physical training, a lot of it has become a very mental exercise as to what's actually going on in the brain. Once you're engaged, once you're in that fight, once you're there in a real life situation, you're trying to get the upper hand every single time. You've heard the phrase, or at least I hope you've heard the phrase, if you ever find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics suck, because you always want to have the advantage when it comes to self-defense. Now, we could easily say that somebody who trains on a regular basis against somebody who doesn't train at all is probably going to be a lot better off. But that's not to say there aren't people out there who are very skilled at fighting that aren't necessarily trained in martial arts. They're just fighters. And then there are people who are so determined to cause you harm that it really doesn't matter. That energy alone is going to be more than enough for them to get somewhere. So you are engaged in a fight, and first of all, what's going through your mind? Because being able to stay calm, big A plus to being able to get out of that situation safely. So that's definitely an aspect in your training that should be a big part. Because if we can't keep our minds calm, how are we going to think of a way out or do the things that we train to do? But today, let's focus on the opponent themselves. What are they thinking about? They're thinking about harming you. They're thinking about causing bodily injury of some kind. So they're coming at you. Their mind is set on that. Now, you could easily say that you hit them hard enough, they're going to stop thinking that. And that might be true in some instances. In others, it's not. Again, you find yourself against somebody who's skilled, they're probably going to be able to take a punch. So what else is there? If they're bigger, stronger, what else can you do to get the advantage? And something we've been exploring lately is something we like to call a mental punch, or a brain punch, rather. How do you get them to think of something else or respond to something else that leaves them wide open to what you need them to do? And the first thing that comes to mind is misdirection. We've all heard it in many different ways. You see it in magic shows, you see it in TV shows. Writers use it all the time to get you to think of one thing, and then all of a sudden, bam, they hit you with a twist and it becomes a great show or movie, a great book. Politicians use it all the time. I'm not going to go deeper into that, but I'm sure you know what I mean. The idea is to get the mind to think of something else in that moment, that, and this is the important part, that is right thing to think about, or in this case, do. It's not a matter of tricking them into something else, but literally feeding their brain enough information to say, oh, I gotta take care of this. Meanwhile, you're still standing on the side of them and their face is wide open. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, what information is happening, or what information is being received while you're in a physical altercation? Because a lot of people know that when you're separated, yeah, you have your visual. But once you get to a certain distance from each other, when you're actually making contact, it's no longer a visual thing. It's tactile. You've heard this before. Everybody says, or not everybody, but a lot of people I've heard say the fight always ends up on the ground. That means both of your hands are on each other. Other parts of your body are being in contact with each other. So that means your brain is getting all this different information of all the different places that you can touch. What can you do with that? Well, you can start directing what information the brain starts receiving. Now, once you're in actual play, once you're in actual contact, you can redirect that information. Rick, actually, this might be a good way to see it.
Coming.
Thank you. So,
Yes, master. master.
Wow. Really? We're going there now? Okay. So now we're this close, we're in contact, we're actually fighting. I'm trying to punch him, he's trying to punch me, and you do whatever you can. So if Rick is trying to punch me and I don't want to get hit, I can just do this. But he still has the other hand, so that means I'm not really doing anything significant, right? So now he's stopped. Why? Because I didn't just parry. All of a sudden, I just sort of gripped his hand slightly, and that changed the information in his brain. Because if you're used to fighting and somebody parries you, you know what to do. You're already accept that. You have something trained for that. But if somebody comes in and pulls you and then pushes you back, now all of a sudden, all I did was pull him forward in the direction his brain already was trying to go in, and automatically he's going to pull back, so I just pushed it with him. It seems simple enough, but what I'm doing is I'm feeding his brain to understand this is the right thing for me to do, even though it ended up him being trapped. Thank
Luck.
you. Yeah, luck. So these are the little things that then we start exploring as to where else can we do it. What if I step behind Rick's leg, not necessarily to lock him, but just to give him a sense that, oh crap, he's going after my legs. I'm going to move out of the way. Meanwhile, I'm punching him in the face because he's so focused on not getting his leg trapped that he's going somewhere else. And it's not a new concept. It's not something that we invented in any way, shape, or form. It's seen all the time. But do we talk about it across all martial arts? Is it something that we all discuss? And if so, how do we go about doing so? How do we have enough information to put it together and say, this is a generalized idea of what the human brain actually does in order to either keep itself safe, defend, or do what we want them to do in order for it to be advantageous to us? Rick?
Another example.
Hey, cool.
So, Nain's brain is smart. He's a good fighter. He understands what to do. Good martial arts. I'm going to tell him I'm going to hit him in the knee. If he's smart, he'll do the right thing.
Damn it.
Because he had to do that. He's smart. Get out of the way of the stick. Thank you.
Okay. So, I should have just got hit in the knee. Silly, right? But that actually illustrates the point exactly. Because we are trained, we have some knowledge behind us, and we know, hey, that's a possibility. And even if he didn't tell me, if that's what information he fed to my brain, I'm going to be concerned about that knee. Now, because I'm a close quarter fighter and he understands that, I'm going to move in somewhere where I'm closer to him and not further away. That's a viable option. Running away, that's cool. But in this situation, from who I am, what he knows about me, and the information he gave to my brain, which in this case was completely verbal, I got out of the way the best way I knew how, only to get hit in the face. And those are the kind of things that we start exploring, is how do we then, for someone who doesn't know what we know, who isn't trained the way that we are, feed them that information to do what we want them to do. And maybe at the beginning it's not what we want them to do, but start building information in our brains about what people are likely to do when you show them certain things, or when you give them and feed them information, eventually getting to a point where you can feed them whatever information you want and get them to do what you want them to do when you want to do them. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and I think we do need to talk more about it, because there are so many other ways that I know martial artists I've seen use ideas like this, not necessarily being the focus, but seen it within their techniques, seen it within the stuff that they are showing. But how much more result would we get from our students and from our own abilities if we start openly discussing this and making it a focus of conversation. How do we get the brain to respond a certain way? And it could be as simple as, hey, if I throw this at you, what would be your automatic response? Okay, so now I know that's the automatic response for this person. For this person, all of a sudden we have all this information to say, oh, 80% of people would respond this way. That information is useful so we can understand, all right, I can use that for myself, because if I want them to put their hands up, this is what I got to show. And you've seen it before. There are, again, many examples of it. But if we can talk more about it together and make it cohesive, well, how useful would that be? Because the brain is constantly affecting the way that we respond to things, not just our personalities, but the information that's happening then and there. If you ever find yourself in a ring, you get a nice kick, even though you blocked it, you still feel the force of that kick. It makes you a bit more wary of that kick. That person notices, they can use it against you in that particular match. Not with feints, but with actual information that was fed to you, because you saw, you felt, you know the results, you see the end come, so you're going to move out of the way, you're going to block ahead of time, and that leaves you open in one place or the other, because we can't protect everything at the same time. Whenever we move, we're going to leave something open. That's just part of the mentality that goes along the way. Now, the flip side to this is you as the practitioner, you as the fighter, understanding this idea and furthering the concept within your own training, would it give you the ability to then dismiss the stuff or the information that people are feeding you, including pain? Now, what do I mean by this? Rick is really the biggest example that I have of this concept. He's given me for the years opportunities to attack him. He said, just attack me, just go ahead, try to catch me off guard. And the only reason I know that I've succeeded at catching him off guard is because I've known him for so many years. But anyone outside of that would never even consider that, because his responses are so automatic, so precise, that it is kind of scary. And after these conversations that we've been having together, it's dawned on me that it's because he is not flustered by anything. Whether he gets hit, whether somebody's punching him, whether somebody's talking big, he is not fazed. His mind doesn't even register it, which means his brain doesn't do the natural reactions that the rest of us do that could be used against us in this instance. So he has a way of essentially ignoring all of that, and it focuses him on what he needs to do and being proactive in offensive in all his moves and the way he goes about protecting himself. So those are the two sides. We can use it as a weapon against our opponent, but if we get better at it, we can also be more bold, step in at the right time, because we're not scared or skittish of what could happen, but rather we're so focused on what we want to do that any obstacle that comes in our way just gets moved until we reach our end goal. And personally, that's the kind of fighter I want to be, the kind that can just go, and it looks like it was choreographed, it looks like it was a specific technique, but it really wasn't. It was just the brain being so unfettered that it could use all the information I've accumulated at once, at that moment, when I needed it and how I needed it for it to work in my favor. And folks, a lot of that, what I've seen and read and learned, has been about the mind. What information we feed it through our training, what information we feed it through the things we read, the people we are around, and just overall the information that we choose to accept as true or meaningful. I don't know if any of what I said is to you or isn't, but I do hope that it triggered something that you're willing to share, because I'm more than willing to listen and really understand where you're coming from in that aspect. How do you get an opponent to do what you want them to do, so you can take the advantage every single time, so you can use it for real self-defense out there where there is no rules, where there are no judges, no referees, and no mats, where it's just you and that other person, or you and all their buddies. Because, hey, it's a reality that may happen to you. I hope it doesn't, but you never know. And that's the reason why we train. We train for the worst case scenario, and our mind is our best friend, but at the same time, it can be our worst enemy. So definitely something worth looking into, to being able to capitalize, to make sure that we are not on the receiving end of our brains messing up or messing with us, and that we could stay focused in that moment and do the very best we can to get the hell home safely and sound, or protect those that we are meant to protect. So, again, thought exercise, a lot of questions. Hopefully you guys can share some of your answers. Thank you for joining me on another one of Nain's Shorts. Until the next one. 3, 2, 1.